You're listening to the Mind Your Business podcast. In today's episode, we interview success coach Brad Bizjack, where he reveals the most common traits of today's high performers and the most pesky subconscious blocks preventing your success.
So stay tuned.
Hi, I'm James Wedmore, and with 17 years online, I've built my business to over $12 million in sales per year. And this is the first non-business business podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of spirituality, energy, and mindset to grow your business beyond your wildest dreams, all from the inside out. This is the Mind Your Business podcast. Why does it feel like only a few entrepreneurs are able to continually produce quantum leaps of success in their business, while most struggle year after year, despite how hard they work or how many strategies they try? Today's guest on the Mind Your Business podcast is our dear friend, success coach, Mr. Brad Bizjack. We just wrapped up today's incredible 2-part interview where we dive in and take a nitty-gritty look at all the pesky beliefs and self-sabotaging strategies that most entrepreneurs fall into that prevent success. Brad, what would you say were the top things that you shared in that episode?
We talk about how most people are limited by perfection, procrastination, and inconsistencies, how they don't realize there's a subconscious block going on, causing that to happen. We talk about beliefs and where they come from, and how even if we don't like this belief, it's what's playing over and over and over again in our mind. And we talk about the combination lock of success, how when we have 3 numbers that need to align in order for you to actually hit your business goals, that and so much more.
Awesome, Brad. Jen, you watch and pay such close attention to so many of the entrepreneurs we work with at every single level. What would you say was your favorite part of this episode? I know it was a really long conversation.
Well, I love the analogy of success being like a combination lock. I think that was a really cool part of the conversation.
Just one thing.
Yeah, because I think entrepreneurs too tend to look for the one thing that's going to once they have the right strategy, that's it. Or once they have the right mindset, that's it. And it really is a combination of factors that can produce or accelerate success. I loved the conversation we had around parenting and the impact that producing high performing brains can impact generations, and not just how the ripple effect of that. And I also like exploring the idea that performance coaching isn't only for people who are in a problem.
Yep.
It's preventative maintenance, and it's kind of required reading if you're going to be an entrepreneur. And so the sorts of things that Brad teaches and the work that he does becomes the foundation for success that especially entrepreneurs need, but just people need in order to encounter all the things that life keeps throwing at you.
And Brad is one of the best humans to bring this technology and this work to you guys here today. So I'm so excited. Brad, you've been doing this work for over a decade.
Yep, it's over a decade.
He's worked with thousands and thousands of people in every walks of life, including entrepreneurs and striving high performers and achievers like yourself. And today's episode was just amazing, especially because Brad has such a huge giving heart, and he really loves seeing the change, the transformation, and breakthrough that's possible for you because he's seen it, experienced it with so many others like you. So without further ado, let's roll that tape and get into today's interview with none other than Brad Bizjack. Bradley, the Manly, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic, man. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you being here. So much I want to talk about with you today and dive into so many topics, but I'd love for you to give some context to our listeners. If you don't mind sharing a little bit about your expertise, who do you help?
Yeah, we help high achievers and high performers rewire their mind for success. If they have limiting beliefs or toxic emotional patterns or toxic thoughts they don't realize are getting in the way of their business growth, we help them identify those and remove those so they can go after their biggest goals.
Love it. Cool. It makes sense to you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice and concise, right?
What would you define as a high performer? Like if you were to look at 2 people and you go, that person right there, they're a high performer. What are the things that you start to notice about them that would you fit and labeled in that definition?
Well, I use the word high performers because I think a lot of people are trying to strive to become a high performer. And a high performer, in my opinion, is someone that has sustained happiness and success. I think a lot of times people will go after achievement, and because they're so focused and obsessed on achievement, they leave the fulfillment behind. And I lived that way for a while. And it's actually something that's putting the brakes on and holding them back. So in my opinion, a high performer is someone that has both, not just one, but truly both fulfillment and achievement.
Well, let's go even deeper. What is your definition of performance?
Performance is while you're not only achieving quite a bit, but you're also fulfilled and happy along the way. It's the exact same thing. And so whatever your goals and dreams are, you're striving for something so much bigger than you've ever achieved and feeling alive as you do it.
Yeah. So what does it look like if someone, because I really want to round this into now examples with business owners and a lot of our clients are, coaches and personal brands. What is a low performing individual look like that they're trying to run?
Yeah, I would say this is the person that they are feeling like they're in this place where they know that their life needs to change and they have some glimpses and ideas as to what that could be, but they're not taking any action to make it happen. Or they'll see other people taking action, but they're not actually moving towards it in the same way. So they use the excuse of, I know what I need to be doing, but they're not actually doing it. This is the person that is consistently inconsistent. They have the strategy, but for some reason it's not working for them. And so they get in their heads, they stop, they slow down. And this is the person that might be checking some of the boxes of achievement, but consistently feels like it's not enough. Nothing's ever enough. And they just feel like they're clawing, like the next achievement is going to somehow make them feel happier or more significant.
Yeah. I see that so often. I think it's like just universal for us, this idea of, I know what I should be doing. I know what I need to do. And despite how well I know what I need to be doing, I'm still not doing that. First of all, okay, can we each think of an area in our lives where we do that? Jenny, does anything come to your mind?
Nothing comes to mind right away, but I'm familiar with that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's like, we could always be doing more than we are. And I think that we can get in that trap. We could be creating more, posting more, teaching more. We could be selling more. We could always be doing more. But for some people, often it's like,
I think a lot of people think knowing is enough. And then they get sucked into, we can talk about this. They get lured into the net of always being a student because they just think, I just need to know what to do. So I just need to learn what there is to know about what to do. But if knowing was enough, everyone would have great results as soon as they learned it. And there's something more that I think lies in the realm of performance, which is like learning what you need to know in order to produce a result is step one. You do need that. So that's not to discredit learning because it's vital. But then there's the application of the learning, which is where the performance comes in. And if you don't really reconcile that it's not enough to know, you have to do. And then some people have no problem going from, I learned it, now I'm doing it. You're someone that naturally, I think, moves from learning to doing really quickly without evaluating, overanalyzing, getting in your own way. I see you do that all the time. You'll learn something and apply it and immediately. But then there's other people that learn it and either in the learning they are misapplying it or they learn it and they just can't seem to bring themselves to do it. And that's where performance coaching can be really effective, I think.
Yeah. So it probably is contextual to different areas and different reasons. But like, let's say someone in business, like they have goals for their business and they know what they should be doing and they're not doing. What are the most common in your mind causes for why they know what they should be doing and they're still not doing it?
Yeah, there's quite a few reasons actually. Number one is I would actually look at the goal itself, because I think a lot of times people don't actually set goals based on what they want. They set goals based on past failures or mistakes they've made in the past. They're trying to be more realistic and not actually thinking in terms of possibility. You said, well, you'll see this show up in symptoms like a lack of motivation or inconsistency. Whenever someone says they don't have motivation to stay consistent on something, I'm like, you're not without motivation, you just have crappy goals.
Oh,
right?
okay.
And so the first piece to take a look at, and this isn't everything, but the first piece to take a look at is definitely, is this dream actually yours? Is this coming from your heart? Is this something that actually moves you? If not, we need to figure out what that is. The second thing to really take a look at is, especially when it comes to distractions, you mentioned the idea of study, right? And I think what a lot of times people will do is they don't recognize that studying so much, it feels good, right? It makes them feel very important for studying. Don't get me wrong. Studying more is a very important thing. You need to take in information and then apply that information. But if you are just taking in information and studying, I mean, it's not going to get you anywhere, right? So the application of it, that's another place where people get stuck and don't follow through. But really where we need to take a look, let's say someone is applying things or they're trying to apply things and they have a dream and a goal. The place that I see a lot of people get stuck is patterns that are going on behind the scenes that they don't even realize are there. They don't recognize that they have a belief or a toxic thought process or a limiting emotional state that's getting in the way of them even applying action. So for example, if you have all the best business principles in the world, you know how to create an offer, you know how to create messaging, but you have this belief that says, I'm a failure, I'll never be enough, it's not going to happen. If you have a great offer design and you're going to put it out there, but you're in a state of anxiety or overwhelm, people will read that, they'll sense that, they'll feel that. And that's all of those things combined and so much more. So
obviously, I want to spend a lot of time unpacking that because I'm pretty sure everyone here listening is a human. I don't want to make any assumption. So they're going to have emotions and something that's called the human experience. So I've yet to meet someone, and I don't think I want to, that doesn't have those. I worry that they're either artificial or a sociopath, right? Just lack any type of human emotion or empathy. And so this is everyone. And the reason this is such an important conversation is we work with so many clients today at so many levels. And I just want to say, like, first of all, if you're going to be in business, which is wonderful, and there's more people starting businesses today than ever before, and that's even more wonderful. And if you think like, I'm going to be the first one to do this without any problems, no failures, no mistakes, and you want to be the first person so you can be in the Guinness Book of World Records, like, I'll cheer you on. But for the rest of us, every day is going to be met with setbacks, challenges, unwanted experiences, whether it's something that breaks, a mistake you made, people criticizing you, judging things that didn't go your way, called life and business. And if you don't develop the proper or master the proper tools to not let that affect you, you're done. You're toast as soon as you start. The amount of people we've worked with, they have quit or give up just because they had their first foray into business and they hit that little failure, that first little thing, and they're like taken out. Is so tragic because I think some of the people that yield the most care the most, but then they let one of their strengths actually become a weakness for them because it will take them down. And that's really tragic. So we're going to get into all that because I think this is essential. Like I really don't know how you could be in business today without learning all of these tools and thrive. Because I've never met someone that didn't go through a challenging problem or failure or a bad day in business. So that's when you use these tools, right? But I want to go back to this conversation for a moment of, are the goals even yours? What does you mean by that? Like, do you see people that are, it's like, well, whose goal is it? Like, is it society's? Is it pressure of what I'm supposed to be doing or what my parents want from me? Like, can you speak more to that?
Without a compelling vision of the future, you're forced to focus on the problems of the past and present, right? Most people are so obsessed with what did not happen. And they'll say to me, I'm afraid of success. I'm afraid of the next level. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're afraid of the past happening again. That's what you're really afraid of. So when people think of, and they're really attached to the outcome. And so a lot of times people will be like, well, I don't want to fail again, or I don't want to make a mistake again. And so slowly over time, their dreams just get smaller and smaller and smaller to where they're sitting there going, well, I know what I should be doing, but I can't get myself to do it. And it's because it's not actually a calling on your heart. It's not actually pulling you. And people will see, and this is one of the reasons why it's so important that you're surrounded by other people that are going after big things.
Yeah.
Because you'll see people,
especially today.
Yeah.
People are so isolated and have no idea how much that's affecting them. It's amazing that the amount of people that are like, well, because I can just access everything I need right now from home at the internet, I don't need that. And then we bring a group together and they're like, where has this been for the last 4 years of my life?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so important. I mean, your peer group will literally determine the expectations you set for your own life and how you rise to those. So if let's say that you're surrounded by people that, and this is a really important point. A lot of people think that haters are limiting on their success. But that's not actually the most limiting thing at all. The most limiting influence on your success is the cheerleader that praises mediocrity.
Ugh.
That is the most toxic thing.
Boy.
Because if you think about that person, what they're really doing is they're saying, yeah, good enough. That's fine. That's fine. You don't need any more. It's okay. Keep going though. You're doing great.
Yeah.
That's not doing anything. So a lot of people they'll get in rooms where it feels comfortable to be in cheerleader rooms because everyone's like, how can I support you? How can I love you? But it doesn't actually move people forward. I want people to get into a room where the standard is that you win, that you go to the next level. And so is the goal yours? Is it based on past failures, or is it just trying to appease your parents? Is it something that your heart actually wants? Or is this something that past failures over and over and over again have conditioned you to limit yourself with? Or is this something where deep down you want more, but the people that you're around consistently, they're telling you that enough is okay?
And maybe a balance of both. Like if you're out there constantly striving and you only surround yourself with people who are pushing and doing better than you, and you always feel like you're trying to get to the next level, being in a room of people going, you know what? Let's be grateful for what you have. Well done. Yeah. That's good. There's a balance there, but you don't want to only be in that environment all the time because it won't compel you to, strive.
I mean, I remember being in a group like that really was like, whoa. When one of the individuals in the group, and this is when my business was at like 200,000 a year. I remember one of those people looked at me and I was talking about my goals for the next year. And she just said, it was kind of like out of the side of her mouth. It's like, when is it ever going to be enough for you? Yeah. And I distanced myself from that person immediately because all I heard was that was a projection. Mm-hmm. I knew I wasn't offended by it or I didn't take it personally. I was like, I could sense that she was threatened that I had bigger goals. And it was kind of like I'm like, I cannot be around people that are not championing me to something bigger because I already had that vision of more. And it wasn't driven from, it's not enough, it's not enough. It's like,
right.
I see some big things and I can step into them. And to surround yourself by someone and say, when's it ever going to be enough? It's like, you don't even understand me. I'm not doing that because it's not enough. Yeah. It was already enough. Yeah. But I'm not now going, is it enough? Let me stop. It's like, what else are we capable of? Who else can we help? How big can we make this? Is a fun game. But I want to go somewhere else with you because this is what came up for me as you were sharing that whole piece too. I think it's worth staying here for a moment because I think it might be a new distinction for a lot of people. And it's something that I've been starting to talk about a bit. And before I really bring it to our listeners' attention, I actually want to ask, like, when you're working with a client, what is a typical vision or goal business owner, let's say, that they bring to the table for you? Like, what's a common one?
100K.
100K.
Always 100K. 100K a year.
Yeah.
That's like that. I want to break that 6-figure barrier.
Okay.
People are going to hate me so much. It's like, I don't even think we should make that a goal because like when you're in business, like it's even hard to live off of that. I mean, at least in this country, because you're going to have expenses. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like 100K take home. Let's go. Right. There we go. 100K profit.
100K profit.
Yeah. Okay. So here's something too that I think we really have to address. It's not just the vision. And I see this so much. People will create a goal and the goal, something that they want, and the path to get there is something they don't want. It boggles my mind how many people will spend time going in a direction that they think will get them something they want, but the direction itself is something that they can't stand. For example, you create and teach content for a living and you coach clients. Do you hate coaching?
I love coaching.
Right. Do you hate creating content? Do you hate being in front of the camera and teaching? No. Could you imagine trying to create what you've created and you hate doing?
Be very challenging.
And I think what people have to see is that the vision isn't the end result minus the journey. It's the entire process too. It's like, I don't want to just make 100K profit a year. I want to make that 100K profit a year doing what? Mm-hmm. And if it's not something in some way that lights you up, you're dead in the water. Yep. Because that may be a reason, right? That you're not doing it. It's because like you don't want to.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, that's spot on. I think a lot of people, they'll take a look at the actual action steps. I'm like, if you don't actually get lit up each day doing this, then people are going to smell that. When you put an offer out there and you're like, maybe this will be a good fit for you. Maybe that's what you're communicating.
I hate that I got to do this today. It's like pulling teeth.
And there is an element where people have some underlying beliefs and things they need to break through. A great example of this is sales, right? You know, if someone believes that sales is taking from somebody, but they really want to sell something, well, we need to analyze, is this actually something that you don't want to do? Or is it just that you have a fear of you're going to be perceived as taking or something like that? So we need to make sure and have the right distinctions there. Is this actually something you don't like to do? Or is there something underlying going on behind the scenes?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so let me ask this question. Have you ever worked with someone or met someone that didn't have any of these patterns, beliefs, or blocks? Like they're like, I don't have anything to work on.
They pretend to not have anything to work on, and they're like, I don't have any
Say that.
Yeah.
But if you ever met anyone who's like, oh no, you're like healed and
Isn't that
enlightened and floating through.
isn't that itself a limiting belief?
Yeah, exactly.
It's very limiting to think that you aren't limited.
But you have had the experience where people said like, I don't really think I have anything.
Mhm.
You have had.
I've had that.
Okay. So I'm assuming that's occurring because there's a lack of awareness of what
It's
is going on.
It's a lack of awareness of what could be going on, yes, but it's also a fear of what that's going to mean about themselves if they discover it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or could it also be maybe,
Yeah.
well, I would imagine it can be very tailored to like, there's probably 3 key. It's like, it's either, it's a lack of awareness. There's a fear of what it could mean if they admit that they don't have it all together. And then maybe even it's that they at one point were operating from a place of, I know exactly what I want. I know how to get there, and I'm climbing this ladder. And they got to the top of that ladder. And so then they said to themselves, I made it. I did it. I got everything I set out to do, and I need to be grateful. And it's comfortable here. And that's kind of that. And that might not even be celebrating mediocrity. That could be celebrating a really great achievement that at one time was this incredible dream that you had no idea where to get to. But then you got there and you're just like, no, that was everything on my list. I got everything on my list. So I'm good. And I'm not going to ask for anything else, you know?
Yeah. Well, by very nature, if you are not striving for more, you'll start to feel like you're dying inside. And I think people will utilize gratitude as it's scarcity pretending to be abundance. In that context, I'm not saying don't be grateful, but I'm saying a lot of times people will use it as a way to not strive for what's actually next for them.
Or they feel guilty.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Wanting-
That if you want more, then you're not being grateful.
Mhm.
Yeah. There was something that Tony Robbins said at an event that the secret to happiness is progress.
Mm.
And what resonated with me about that is that for James and I, when we do our values, both of us, one of our top values is growth.
Mhm.
And it's always in the top 3, no matter how other ones shift around. And so for me, I feel like if I'm not growing in a direction, which could be just like deepening on knowledge base or a level of mastery around something that I've already learned, or I'm learning something new and that's pushing me to grow. So I think of it as like on a horizontal axis or a vertical axis. It's like if there isn't growth, then it's like if you're not growing, you're dying kind of. And that people who don't continually set goals that cause them to grow eventually will start to experience some level of complacency, despondency, maybe even depression or disconnection with their purpose. And then that will eat away at you on a level where you wake up in the morning feeling unmotivated, unfulfilled, uninspired, and maybe even just numb.
Yeah.
Andy Dufresne always said, get busy living. Oh, yeah.
Well, there's actually a good metaphor my buddy Jim has about this that I really love. And he talks about hermit crabs.
Okay.
The fascinating little
I love hermit crabs.
right? And he talks about how these hermit crabs, they'll grow to reach the outer level of their shell. So they're
yes.
bumping up against it,
Uh-huh.
right? Shell, metaphor for ego.
Hmm.
EGO, everyone's greatest obstacle, right?
Okay.
So
That's great. I love
so you
it.
bump up against the shell and you have a choice in that moment, a choice to stay in the safe shell,
Mhm.
right? I just want 100K, right? Or whatever the goal is.
Yeah.
But then what you start to experience is that you'll have this rationalization of, I don't need more, but you'll start to experience this numb, achy sensation of regret.
Mhm.
And you kind of go dormant and quiet and you're totally disconnected with your purpose. This is the person that wakes up in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, having the same bad day, having the same problems going on. Or you can leave the shell. And when you leave the shell, it's a risk. You are going to be seen. The barracudas could get you. I have no idea if barracudas eat hermit crabs, but we're going to go with that. Yeah. But like you leave the shell, and that is a sign of, okay, I'm going to go look for something bigger, a bigger home to grow into. But there's so many forces that keep you stuck in that safe little shell. And I think a lot of people don't recognize that what's really playing on behind the scenes is the need for safety and familiarity is so powerful that you will be tricked into thinking that staying safe and in familiarity is actually the key to growing when it's not. That's where you're going to feel like you're epically struggling.
People think that?
All the time.
No way. No one here thinks that. The key to growing is stay safe. I hope no one here is thinking that after 700 episodes. This also reminds me, and I saw this trend with it was not the Charity Water Mastermind. It came up more there, which I found really interesting. I was like, which one was it? Because we did 2 back-to-back masterminds, and Brad was out for this. He donated to purchase a well for Charity Water. So I said, hey, come on out. And we had a bunch of amazing humans out and hung out and masterminded and stuff. Saw some UFOs. Had a good time. And there was a trend, there was a thing that I saw, and it reminded me of this phenomenon that we see of what we call no man's land, where they had the motivation to push away from a bad circumstance in their life. Like, I'm sick and tired of this. It was an away strategy. I got to get out of this situation. I got to go away from this. And they did. And now they're even saying, some of them were saying it here, like, I'm bored now. I'm not as motivated or driven. And they don't have a towards strategy. And so they're like, I don't have a reason to get out of survival. I'm doing just fine. But I don't have something that compels them forward. And they're stuck in what I think is the most dangerous place, is no man's land. Then what we see, and if you have mastered the away strategy, you're in big, big trouble, because if you're not careful, it's like the battle, the bind you put yourself in of, I want to grow, but I can only grow when I put myself in a tight position. You put it in a tight position. And I watched this video and I never comment on Instagram. And I had to say something, because this young kid, he's a young whippersnapper. I don't mean any disrespect to him, but I did have to make a comment. People got all mad at me because thought I was judging him. But his whole life was he just keeps putting himself in these positions where he has to fight to survive. He's homeless, but he will pay hundreds of dollars for the luxury gym just so he can surround himself with these people that he's can be jealous of and compete against. And I'm like, that is your motivation strategy. You're just going to keep reinforcing that. And this is why you're bringing up things about a compelling vision, because I see a lot of people, and we saw it in the 7-figure mastermind. So this other metaphor we give is the rocket fuel on a rocket that it takes to get out of orbit can be a lot. Now you're in outer space. It's a totally different propulsion device to get you to go further.
Have you ever seen Apollo 13?
Embarrassingly, I can't believe I'm admitting this live.
Dude.
I never see it.
Wait, are you serious?
Your homework.
Wait. Whoa.
I wanted to see it.
Wait. What?
Move on.
Tom Hanks is a legend. So,
man,
I feel deeply hurt by this.
Okay, you would like
movies I've never seen. The other was what was the
man? That's a good movie.
Armageddon. Never saw.
Dude.
Oh, all right. Well, I don't
love story.
Listen,
just never saw it.
Yeah, we can circle back to that. That I don't disagree with you. I watched an interview with
the both of you guys have.
Well, I had all the same questions Ben Affleck had about Armageddon, which was he was like, we were on the set, and I was like, wait, we're oil drillers. Wouldn't it be easier to teach an astronaut how to drill than it would be to teach oil drillers how to be an astronaut? And they were like, shush.
That's how the next.
Don't ask any questions. Don't ask questions, Ben. So that, I'll excuse that. But yes, we will.
It was called Pearl Harbor, right? And
It's a good love story.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
I'm a sucker for romantic movies.
Yeah.
That one's heartbreaking.
It's a doozy.
Yeah, I'm okay with not saying that one.
You're gonna ask these questions. We're gonna go on.
Talk to me, Brad. I've seen it many times.
You're out of here.
I've seen it many times. In fact, I've been in the control room of the Apollo missions, which they usually don't let you tour in NASA. But we had a special amazing hookup, and we got to go into mission control, and I cried. I was so excited. It was so neat.
She went into space with Katy Perry.
No,
Actually,
fake news.
So Apollo 13.
Yeah.
Let's reel it in, guys. Let's reel it in.
Back on top.
away from our
Yeah.
So in Apollo 13, that blasts off, right? And it goes out in outer space, and all these like giant fuel tanks, right?
Yeah.
To get out of the atmosphere. And to push away from something, right? That takes a tremendous amount of force, right? And it's not a bad thing to have that tremendous amount of force. That's where I started too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
For most of us, that's where you got to start.
And it's a good thing, right?
Mhm.
But what most people don't recognize is that fuel is like lighter fluid. It
Yeah.
burns quick,
Mhm.
fast. It will propel you out, but it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And so in Apollo 13, you get out of the atmosphere and those canisters fall off. And I think a lot of people experience this feeling of like a weightlessness. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what no man's land, what to go after.
Yeah.
But in Apollo 13, which you're going to watch,
Yes, we are. You'll love it.
It's a must.
You'll love it.
Tom Hanks is great.
He's
Then
gonna watch it.
these rocket boosters kick in that actually look way smaller than the big canisters. They kick in and just pew, they go.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of people don't recognize that when they're in this weightless period, it just means the fuel source that you were growing with before is no longer sustainable to where
Yeah.
you go.
And people get addicted to that, right? So that's all they know. And then it's like, and that worked.
Yep.
So then they reinforce it and they keep trying to do that. And it's going to continue to work less and less. But let's talk about that for a moment, because there was a moment in time where you started a business and weren't where you are today. And so I want to hear examples, because we can all give examples of like, what did that getting out of Earth's atmosphere look like for you? And what did you have to really fight against and push out of so you can get out of that old atmosphere?
Yeah. When I was starting out, I was deeply in debt. I was almost $100,000 in debt. And I remember at that stage of my life, I just wanted so badly to have more money.
Mhm.
I wanted to be able to add avocado without having to worry about paying for
Yeah.
it, right? That's what I wanted. But yeah, but what I really wanted was to be the breaking point of mediocrity in my family history. Like that's what I really wanted. It felt like I was fighting against this just years and years of struggle and scarcity and stress and
Mhm.
anger and people fighting about money and all these things. And I wanted to break through that. So the first thing I had to break through was that whole idea that where I was in the past and how I grew up was somehow bad, because I viewed it as a huge limitation in my life.
Mm.
And I resisted it. But what I found is the more I resisted it, the more it came up over and over and over again. More scarcity, more challenges with debt, money, all those things. That was a big one. Another one that I really struggled with was this idea of being okay wanting more, exactly what we're talking about right now. Right when the business started growing and started taking off, I remember having a fear of what's going to happen at this next level. It's fear of what people call fear of success.
Uh-huh.
Well, when I reach $1 million, what does that mean? Will I be, because I saw my dad working 100 hours a week, they would barely get by. And so there was always this belief going on that if you work harder, that's what's going to make you successful.
Yeah.
And so I had this fear that getting to the next level, let's say the $1 million level, was going to somehow mean that I had to work harder. And so I didn't want to go after that. And all of these just kept stacking. But the biggest one that I had to get through was the healing that needed to happen as it related to my childhood. I didn't recognize that there were things going on behind the scenes about whose love I was craving as a kid,
Mhm.
how that was impacting my business, right? So I wanted to get away without going into too much detail. There was a lot of pain growing up, right? And I didn't recognize that was so beautifully placed there. So the away from pain that I was experiencing is, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to face this. This is too uncomfortable to look at. So I didn't want to be anything like how my childhood was. That was a big one, pushing away from that. And this is a whole other topic in itself, but coming to terms with seeing how beautiful of an experience that was about the time that those rocket boosters turned off. And then there was a weightless feeling, and it's like, okay, I healed that. What's next?
Mm.
Right? I needed to figure out something new to go after. And I can keep going with more examples, but I just feel pulled to go here because a lot of people are wondering, what do I do if I'm in that place?
Okay, so you've already kind of broken through a little something and
You healed the thing that you knew was in the way.
Yeah, I healed the thing I knew was in the way.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, there's a lot of stuff from the past that they go through that they don't realize are holding them back. I didn't realize that craving validation and acceptance from my mom was limiting my business, because what I would show up and get in these rooms of successful people and think, because I was in the room of successful people, very similar to that one kid you were talking about, then somehow I was going to have this pressure to succeed, right? Or, I would feel like if I could just get my name known, then somehow I'll be more successful. And none of that worked.
Not only do they not know how much it's affecting them, but they think, well, once I accomplish this goal, that will go away.
Yep. And that's
the opposite.
Yeah. And it's the opposite. It's healing this, letting that go, whatever it is. That's what's going to propel you to the next level.
Okay, I have a question about so like when you identified, I want to be the first person to break free of this experience of mediocrity around the results that are produced in business or monetary, whatever you wanted, like lifestyle. When you had that thought of, if I break free of this, am I going to be on my own or ostracized or disconnected? Was that also rooted in because your sense of belonging primarily comes when you're a child from your family? So it's like, if everyone in your family for generations has been this type of middle America class, like we're not wealthy, we're like, middle class.
We're okay.
Yeah, you work hard and you have just enough, and you don't have more, and there's not more than enough. But there's I think also in America that sometimes you encounter these, it's almost like there's its own value system for being middle class. Like there's a certain sense of pride, and sometimes it comes up in families that's like, no, wealthy people are this way, and it's like valuable and admirable to not be in this like opulent wealth situation, because those people are like selfish and taking too much or something. So do you think that belief of, I want to break free of this, but if I do, I won't belong anymore, or I won't be accepted, was that like stemming from childhood, or was that also reinforced by things that peers would say? Or, am I making sense how I'm asking it?
It's something where those two beliefs are things that I needed to break through, and they kind of happen at different times in my journey, right? One was breaking through of the deeply in debt, craving validation, needing approval, all of those things. It wasn't until later in my journey where I started to realize that getting to the next level might mean judgment from other people. And I didn't even recognize, actually, until this very conversation, where a lot of that came from. It came from growing up. It was always, rich people are greedy. Rich people are greedy. And is that actually true? If I take a look at the people that I know that have the most money, they're by far the most generous, humble, kind, all those things. And so
I know some greedy poor people.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, because if
people are
greedy people are greedy, and they can have anything in their bank account. Yeah.
The only way to become wealthy is to really give, right? Truly wealthy. But anyways, those happen at different times in my journey. And it's like, growth is kind of like an onion. You don't recognize that there's different layers that play at every single level. So those were some of the away from factors that I had to deal with, but they didn't happen at the same time.
Yeah, I was thinking that, because your psyche's developing all the time, if you're growing up in an environment where the status quo is you work hard, you get just enough to provide, but not more than, and those who have more than are XYZ, like those who have more money than they know what to do with are selfish and greedy. Like, so then you're assimilating that as a child, and you're always making meaning out of the environment you're in. And if your whole environment and family dynamic, as a little kid, you're thinking, what does it take to belong here? Like, what will get me belonging and to fit in? Like, so then you're looking at your models going, well, you work hard, that makes me fit in. You get just enough, that makes me fit in. You share the belief system of your parents or your relatives, which is like, okay, so rich people are bad and greedy. So what it is to belong in this ecosystem is work hard, get just enough to survive. A little bit of debt's fine, and we're going to stay in this like, glass ceiling of like this box, because that produces, you belong here, and then when you try to, even if mentally you're thinking there's more I want to get out of it, your brain already made you a map of what it takes to belong. So you're going against the map. And so you're physiology is going to struggle with that. It's going to go like, but wait, I thought we already worked this out to belong. You're a hard worker and you don't get more than your share.
Yep.
And you stay in this middle place. And if you go outside of that, I don't know,
Yep.
you might not belong anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
So be honest with us. Did any of that happen? Did you get any like ostracizing from the tribe, judgment, criticism?
Oh yeah.
Did you really?
Oh yeah. And
Like from who? Like
family members.
really?
Yeah.
Give us examples.
So
Because this is what I want people to get is that we associate, right? Is what you're pointing out here is that we associate this could happen when I get what I want. And I don't want that to happen. So I'll not get what I want. And so we're not sitting here when it comes to beliefs to say whether it's true or not. It could be true and it could not be true. If it does happen, what do we do then?
Yep.
Right? Like and obviously I'm going to unpack that with you, but like when it happened, you didn't say, okay, I'll close my business down. I won't. Yeah. And that's what some people do. So what kind of things came up?
Mr. Perfect, Mr. Economics was one of the nicknames, right? There was some like hate of like, who do you think you are for doing that? You have more than us, right? You got the boat, the nice things, all that stuff, right? But if on one side, there's no way I would have created all those beautiful things if I didn't heal some of these things. But what a lot of people don't recognize is that if some of these childhood things are not resolved, then that would impact them way more. So for example, if you ask the question, whose love did you crave growing up, mom or dad? Not whose love did you get, whose love did you crave, right? And you ask who you needed to be to receive that love, right? So I needed to be quiet, submissive. I needed to make sure I never did anything wrong, that person approved of me. If I would have never healed that, creating success and this backlash about success happening, I would have changed directions. I would have slowed things down.
Right.
But at the same time, it's unlikely that I would have ever created success without healing that. So anyways, my point is that you need to do the work on the things that you don't want to look at. And that's one of the greatest keys to break through. Because at this stage, someone could say to me, be like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unsolicited.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next question though, and be honest, I'm not trying to pander to the fitness here, but do they still give you that criticism?
Not as much.
Yeah.
Not as much.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Right.
At first it was like this big, what do you think you're doing? You're going to grow. Yeah. And then that reaction grew. You changed. The reaction grew like.
Still changing. And what we're saying is having an impact on you.
Exactly.
You're not going back to who you were.
It became more aggressive. And then.
Try a different strategy. Let me do this. But you had to say more. Let me intensify it. And then it has like zero effect on you.
Well, it's kind of like if you call it the clingy ex-boyfriend test or ex-girlfriend test, right? If you have a stage 5 clingy ex, right? And you decide I no longer want to be in a relationship with this person. And right away, if they're a stage 5 clinger, they're going to come knocking on your door right away. And you can either open that door and engage in that argument, or you can say, no, thank you. I'm not taking solicitations at this time, right? You can let that go. And so the more you resist whatever's coming up. So if let's say that person's arguing against me or telling me like, Mr. Perfect, whatever it is, the more I push against that, the more it's fueling that fire, right? They're going to keep coming back. But the more I'm just kind of like, oh, I'm good, right? Eventually, that ex is going to stop knocking and they're going to eventually get the hint, we hope, right? And it'll slow down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's a common concern that people have. And again, no one has a crystal ball, but in most cases, not all, of course, guys, okay? In most cases, the people that love you and truly care about you, they adapt to the new you. And it's just hard for them to see your change, but they come around. Now, eventually. And it's eventually. And, I always love that meme, and it's the butterfly sitting at the coffee shop with the caterpillar, and the caterpillar is like, you changed, man. Butterfly is like,
Never seen that. Never seen that.
He just says, yeah, because we're supposed to. And it's true. And for me, I've always grown up with people around me that they do get uncomfortable at times with the change, but always supportive and always come around. And it's always offered more good than bad, than bang, every single way, and that's what I hope for everybody is that, people will adjust to a new you, because it really has nothing to do with you. When you're changing, it's things that they see that are coming up within themselves. When that burps up, they get to take a look at that. And I have a big gift for them.
He also provide a different perspective too that I think will be helpful if there's anyone here going through that. If your perception is they don't support me, they don't love me, what if it's they're trying to protect me?
Right.
What if they're like you said, they're projecting. Yeah. What if it's they actually want the best for you based on what they currently believe is possible, right? And they don't want you to change because then they think you're going to get hurt, right? So they'll try to keep you down to make sure you stay safe so that you don't change, so that they're not uncomfortable, but also their heart is not, in most cases, in a bad place. It's in a beautiful place. It's just a more limited place.
Yeah. It's not aligned with your own goals, but it has good intentions. Yeah.
I think sometimes too, that when you were talking about success and in business, sometimes that's measured by bank accounts and bottom lines, but just success in general, when you have like a family dynamic or a group, whether that's a friend group or a family that's centered around a certain lifestyle, and then you set a goal that places you outside of that lifestyle, what naturally can feel like for the family or the peer group is that your desire to create something outside of that style of living means that you're judging it as less than. And so their reaction to their perception of you judging their choice is to then judge you or make yours wrong, because it's a lot easier to judge than it is to receive judgment. So it's that it could just be that by the simple nature of you saying, like a cliche one that comes up in movies all the time is, I got to get out of this small town, and then the reaction is like, what's wrong with this small town? Small town living is the best, like this is the best town in America, and it's like, then they're at this clash of values. It's like by the simple nature of you saying you want to leave this town, you're saying this town is bad. This town is less than what I want. I'm better than this town. And that I'm better than you, like, even if you never said it, or even if you don't believe it, even if it has nothing to do with that, it's just that you don't feel like you belong in that place, or you're not fulfilled where someone else could be totally fulfilled. I like to meditate in nature a lot, because when you think about, I had this profound experience sitting at a waterfall looking at this tree one day where I just thought that tree will always only be in this place. And look how like beautiful and grateful it is, and how it's just you don't look at a tree and think, gee, have you ever seen Paris though? Did you know that a different place exists? Like nature's just happy to be in its environment. And I think sometimes people that get judgmental forget that, we're not that dissimilar to plants. There's some plants that they just thrive better in different eco fields. And it's not to say that a palm tree is better than a cedar tree. They need different things. Yeah. But I think that there's a natural thing that comes up in families and peer groups when especially when money enters the equation, or something that's tangible like fame, recognition, awards, success. And then they start going, you think you're better than me? You think that your lifestyle is better than mine? And so have you encountered, is that something that can be addressed in performance coaching, or is that an element to people who say that they're afraid of success? Is that the
of it?
Okay. Yeah. Say more about that.
One thing that I think is really important to note is that a lot of people, especially in entrepreneurship, when they're starting out, they come up with a new dream, a new goal, a new thing they're excited about, a new passion. They start developing personally and growing. And here's what's interesting. They don't realize that they do feel better than other people in a lot of cases.
Oh, do you mean feel better like I feel good and they feel bad? Or you mean I feel like I am better than this person?
I see it so often.
Superior.
We start growing.
Really?
I see this all the time. The minute we start growing, we tend to, I'm speaking in generalities, we tend to project our growth onto people that are not growing. I see this in couples mostly, right? So someone decides to start a business, right? They're so excited about it. They're pumped about it. And they're reading the books. They're taking business by design. They're doing all the cool things, right? You're always to blame, James. And they're doing all these cool things. But then all of a sudden, their way of thinking starts to become this is the right way. This is the only way.
Okay.
And so they judge other people that are not on that same path, which actually creates more resistance and a lack of support. And they don't realize they're doing it.
Right.
And so one of the things that we need to do is not only continue to grow, but not think for any moment that just because we are on this journey, that it's the right journey for anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That we need to have compassion for people are where they're at. And we're not better than anybody. But I think a lot of times people accidentally create that lack of support by feeling and acting superior than someone else because they're on some holier than thou journey of business growth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you see that in like, spiritual communities as a like spiritual ego. People are about raising their vibration. So then I raise mine, I'm higher than you, and I get to look down on you. Like, oh goodness. Wow, that's really fascinating. I mean, because obviously we see a lot of points of contention with couples when one is starting a business and the other isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I never saw it that way. Yikes. Okay, so let's go here. Patterns. Looking at patterns where someone is like, okay, there are blocks, there are things that I'm struggling with. So now I have a goal. And whether I'm in that first phase of moving away from, or I'm in no man's land, or I've already like really stepped into a bigger calling and I'm being pulled towards something, what are clues or symptoms that start to indicate like maybe this is something, as opposed to I just need to work harder and longer?
Yeah. I think a lot of times in the beginning, people don't recognize it's happening, right? And this is the person that will be either taking all the information in and consuming so much, very similar to what we talked about in the beginning, trying to apply it, and it's not working for them.
Yeah.
The same way that it's working for everybody else. Like other people are getting results with the same deal and they're not. That's one of the ways. Another way is they will find themselves taking actions that are delusional, meaning they'll clean the desk 800 times instead of sending the offer email, right? So there's procrastination actions. You will notice this start to come up. Let's say that you've put
I just had a very specific memory come up of I was in a leadership role where we were calling people, inviting them to come be part of this leadership program. And one of my friends, I would get so frustrated listening to him, and our coach would too, but it was totally in a blind spot. Every day that we did this, we would like set a goal and it would be like, okay, Jenni, how many people are you going to call in your life and invite them to come do this? It was like a leadership little camp sort of thing, like where you go for a weekend and learn all these cool leadership distinctions. And like James was one of the person I called, and you say like, okay, I'm going to call my mom, my sister, and my friend James. I'm going to tell them how great it is, and I'm going to hope that they come to the next one with me. So you would set these goals, and it would be like, I'm calling 3 people, and my goal is 2 out of 3 are going to say yes. And one of my friends would set these goals that would be like, how many people are you going to get a yes from? He'd be like 30. And we're like, you have 3 hours. You think you're going to have 30 conversations in 3 hours, and every person is going to say, yes, I want to come to a leadership conference with you for 2 days. And he could not get it, but he thought he was being so positive. And I remember we would drive home and the coach would be like, can you please set a realistic goal? And he would be like, why are they shooting down my dreams? I'm like, because you're in la la land. Like you're not even in reality. You're just like in this fantasy land of I'm against time barriers. He could not set a goal that was like, just set something that you can hit. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what it reminded me of. It's like, yes, I've seen that. I'm just going to clean the desk and I'll clean my room all day, and then magically something will happen, and you took no action. Yeah. That's
very common. People will just set an intention and think that intention by itself is going to get them somewhere, but you have affirmation, without action. All you have is delusion. Another place that I see this happen all the time is you will notice that if you're out of alignment with where you're meant to go, that you will see other people that have success, and you will take their success to mean your failure. You will see the person that's making $1 million, $2 million, $10 million, whatever it is. And you're like, well, good for them, but look at me, right? So there's that element as well.
Oh.
Yeah. Ew. There's the element of, you'll see this as well. Another symptom is toxic positivity.
Okay.
This is a big one and something that I had to grow through quite a bit when I first started off. I remember
Got a lot of this toxic.
Oh, I had so much
Really?
of it. Yeah, so much.
Okay.
A lot of people think mindset, right? This mindset word gets thrown around and they think, oh, just be positive. That's not what it is. Because a lot of people think that if you're positive, then all of a sudden things will happen. But blind positivity is just as toxic as pessimism. And the reason why that is because if you pretend problems don't exist,
right,
you are not working on your relationship with problems. You're not making anything better. You're avoiding things. And so a lot of people think if I just pretend everything's okay, I'll be good. And this happened in my life. I remember working with a coach. This is maybe 7 years ago. And it was just a checkup on how things were going. It wasn't like a performance call or with any intention. It was just a checkup on how things were going. And she asked me like, okay, so did you do this week? Is more of an accountability thing. I was like, no, it's okay. But it's fine. It's fine. I'll figure it out. It's fine. It's fine. Right? Well, did you do this? No, it's fine though. It's fine. Don't worry. I got it. It's all going to be okay. It's all good. And she said, Brad, what are you avoiding with all this positivity? I was like, what are you talking about? What am I avoiding? She's like, well, are you avoiding anxiety? No. Are you avoiding frustration? No. Are you avoiding anger? I don't get angry.
No.
And I recognize, and she paused, just let it simmer for a minute. And she said, why is being angry wrong? I was like, because one of my parents used to get angry. And I promised I'd never be angry. She asked me, well, could it be possible that some situations in life merit anger? And she helped me realize that all emotions serve you. And I was resisting the uncomfortable ones. I didn't want to experience the uncomfortable ones. And so a lot of people, when they start growing and they're not being pulled by something, they'll experience that of, I'm just going to pretend everything's fine and I'm not going to face my stuff.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly limiting. So what we want to be is genuinely optimistic, which is, this is what I'm facing. This is the uncomfortability of it.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to do and how I'm going to be able to solve this problem.
I'm glad you're unpacking this because I've always, and I'm just going to go on record and let it trigger anybody that wants to get triggered. So you can have your little trigger. But I've always hated the term toxic positivity because I think without an understanding of it, people actually start to be that toxic positivity police on other people and shame people for being positive. And what I'm really hearing is it's a coping mechanism. People are having to numb themselves from facing an uncomfortable situation, avoidance, or a form of denial. And then it's masked with this like, everything's okay. And those are real issues to work through. But I'm also, myself, I'm always, and I'll use your word, optimistic, outcome oriented, but not without negating this important piece that your distinction in conversation brings up, which is like, you have to be with what is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's where I say to all of our clients, to the degree in which you accept what is, to the degree you have the power to do something about it. And so really what I'm hearing based on your definition of toxic positivity, it's a denial of what it's 100%, whereas I can be like, yeah, I'm in something and it sucks and it's real and everything's going to be okay. I'll get through this. Everything will be fine. And I could hear someone go, that's toxic positivity. It's like, no, it's not. No, it's not.
Well, I think I like what you said, blind positivity.
Exactly. Like you're just like oblivious. It's like, no, I don't need to check my bank account. I need to look at those things.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being positive in the presence of a problem, but you need to be present. There has to be a level of presence.
It's like you can't be positive despite going through something challenging. Like, you can't.
Yeah,
as long as you're present to what is.
Yep. Yeah. There's also the flip side of this too, where on one end of the spectrum, there's the blind positivity and the avoidance denial. Then there's the over-identifying with emotions side of it.
Okay, right? Say more about that.
So a lot, you'll hear the word that people use is, I get triggered. So another symptom that's showing up is, I get triggered. Well, a trigger is a piece of your heart that hasn't healed yet. That's all it is, right? Yeah. It is a signal into something that you have not worked on. And so when this comes up, or I shouldn't say have not worked on, have not healed. When this comes up, people will over-identify with that. They'll say, oh, I'm triggered. I can't act. I can't do anything. And they'll completely shut down. So on one side, there's this denial of uncomfortability. On the other side, there's this over-identification with this like big, scary, tough thing that happened. And that's the reason they can't break through the next level.
Right. And so we have to fix and put Band-Aids around the world so that doesn't happen to me instead of going, oh, wait, this is actually something that I can work on.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people will say like, in society these days, people think that for some reason, if you are a victim, you're somehow going to gain power. And that's not how it works at all. And so they're like, avoid my triggers. I want to trigger people because that tells me how I can best serve them.
This is also important when we most people listening are also coaches and thought leaders themselves. And great coaches act as a mirror to their clients. So it is only natural, normal that you'll be reflecting aspects of themselves, the client, that they don't want to look at, which would cause a lot of people to feel triggered.
Yep.
And you are doing a massive disservice to your clients if you're going to dim your light enough and wrap everything you say and do in bubble tape and not be a mirror for your client.
Yep.
And it's just, the key takeaway is to really understand the dynamic of what's occurring and what's going on. And anytime, I mean, I've said this for years, but the trigger is the gateway to the transformation. 100%. That's the first. If someone came here today and they're like, I want to grow. Like, I really want to like work on myself. Where should I start? It's like, what's the thing that pisses you off?
Yeah.
Like, what is causing an upset with you? And like, let's start it there. And there's something.
Yeah.
It is an interesting thing that's happened in our vernacular, because I think he talks about it in The Body Keeps the Score, that the origin of trigger was coming from trauma therapists in like a cognitive behavioral therapy background, where you're talking about actually a biochemical response to an external stimulus that tripwires the nervous system. And now you're in a trauma response. And that's actually something that happens as a phenomenon with trauma. Is like when, at the time when I was diagnosed with PTSD, there was a time when I would get triggered, in quotes, and I would experience a panic attack from the trigger, because it was like my mind, my body, and my psychology went back to the moment of trauma immediately without my control. And that's a very real thing. That's like a separate thing. But then somehow when that term started to become circulating in like the normal, lexicon of like how we talk about our emotions, it's like it got distilled down into the word trigger now means all these different things, instead of what it was originally defining was like a trigger. If that external stimulus happens, boom, you're in trauma response. Yeah. But that's like nuanced, or it's separate from like what we're talking about, which is more like, I like what Dr. Dawn says, which is it's activating, Yeah. And it's like people are using the term, oh, I got triggered by that, when they're really just talking about that produced a really heavy emotional response or a high level of emotion, or you got emotionally flooded, which is separate from like, a psychological trigger. So we're not invalidating trigger responses in the terms of like therapy. But I think that there's something to be said about, and this is a good segue maybe for us to talk about the difference between therapy and performance coaching. But when someone gets stuck in being triggered, if you're talking about actually just using that word to define, I experienced something and then I had all this emotion come from nowhere that maybe like the punishment doesn't fit the crime. It's like you had so much emotion over something that happened where it doesn't really fit. It's like that is evidence of a timeline. Like you've got a timeline of negative thinking associated with that thing that you're seeing. Like, anytime I see someone post online about how much money they're making, it just lights me on fire, and you're like, okay, well, that is evidence of some sort of limiting belief operating where it's activating something in you, and we should look at that. So do you want to talk a little bit about what's the distinction between, because we are tiptoeing into like, if people are listening going, well, that sounds kind of like something you would investigate in therapy versus when you would go to a performance coach. So like, what is performance coaching versus what therapy is?
It's really interesting. I have so many clients that will tell me that a lot of the things that they've been trying to work on in therapy have now been healed through performance coaching.
Yeah.
And what I'm about to say is the fact that by no means is my work therapy. I just want to go on record. Right. I am not a licensed therapist, right? So the difference, in my opinion, is that, I should say therapy first, typically targets a healing of the past. It's looking more backwards as what's stopping us, why am I stuck, what's been going wrong, and trying to find reason, rationale, healing from that. Performance coaching is focused on what are the dreams, goals, outcomes you actually want. For example, what would you go after if you had 3 times the energy and 3 times the courage, right? And finding what that outcome is. And part of performance coaching is healing the blocks that are going on behind the scenes that maybe have some overlap with therapy, but it's more future focus and what you're creating as opposed to healing the past.